Thank you for tuning in to Tooltime Talk. Today's episode will be with Joey Allen of Shepherdsville, Kentucky. Don't forget to like and share. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode ever of Tooltime Talk. I'm Tim Allen, your host, and today I have a special visitor with me. This visitor came all the way from Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and yes, it is my cousin. His name is Joey Allen. So Joey's going to start this journey with me. He's going to kick it off the right way, and where I'm going to talk a little bit about Joey. But let me go into just a little bit about the Tooltime Talk. I'm going to try to do this. Start out with once a month, maybe twice a month. I'm going to interview different people, and it's going to end up being a podcast where we're not actually videotaping it. But to kick it all off, I wanted to do a video, and Joey was gracious enough to come join me. I'm gonna use this it's gonna be a learning tool for me also too. I get to see new people, meet new people, hear their voices, and find out what's going on out there in the world and how people are dealing with it. So we're gonna kick off Tooltime Talk with Joey Allen. He's a member of the Zonton Fire Department. We share a special interest there. I was also a member of the Zonton Fire Department back in the day. But we're just going to talk with Joey. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a little talk, chat, get to know each other and what's changed in their industry since I've been gone and see how this works. So let's kick it off. So Joey, how many years you been with Zonton Fire Department?
I got on Zone in January of 07 as a volunteer, and I got hired October of 2008. So January of this year be right at 15 years.
Oh, correct. And if you don't mind me asking you, Joey, how'd you get started with Zonton Fire Department?
It'd actually be the guy sitting here interviewing me now. Actually, the first email I ever sent to any member of the fire service was to you. You remember Zonton at the time, and I was going through the roster, and I said, "Well, I know that guy." So I figured, well, if I email him, he'll know me, and he'll be able to get my foot in the door. So that's actually how I got started with Zonton.
I do remember that, and I will say that Joey has excelled at Zonton. He's made me proud to know that I was the first contact. I don't have to look back and go, sorry guys. That's excellent. So, but we're going to dig in deep here because a lot of people don't understand what it really means to be a career firefighter. Sure. And the definition of a career firefighter is paid. They just don't understand the workings of it. So Absolutely. Today, I want to take this opportunity to let people understand what really it is to be a career firefighter and what do you go through. So, how has the department changed over the years? Let's say when I was there, compared to what you go through now.
Yeah, well, our base is still the same. We're still a combination department. We have career members and we also have volunteers. And we consider our volunteers our backbone because they really are. They outnumber us. And a lot of the things we do throughout the year, we have to have those good volunteer firefighters with us all the time. And so that hasn't really changed with us. We went through a lot of changes lately with leadership and stuff like that. But fire's still the same. Now, on the career side, there is a lot of changes. You know, I remember talking to you about the coming in as a career firefighter now. That person is coming in the door a lot more educated, a lot more experienced, and a lot more apt to take on that job. So there's been a ton of changes on both the volunteer and career side.
Okay. And the next thing I want to talk about is something that a lot of people in the industry don't really talk about. It's like it's the black cloud. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to touch on it. But I know myself, it's a lot to deal with. I want you to explain to me the mental health side of it. Okay. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, well, there's so many variables at play there, especially volunteers and career. And I speak more to career because that's what I've been longer than anything else. There is a lot of mental challenges to it, even from your work schedule. You're away from home every third day, so it starts there. Making runs in the middle of the night, that's going to weigh on your sleep schedule. That weighs on your health and your home life, everything else. And then on top of that, the emergencies you respond to, nobody calls the fire service when they're having a good day. Usually when they call us, it's the worst day of their life. So you're going to run after run where it's the worst day of this person's life. And then an hour later, you're making the worst run of this person's life. And an hour later, you're going to the worst problem this person's ever had. And so those just add up over time, and you just got to find ways to deal with it. And some people can and some people can't. Mental health in the fire service is, like you said, kind of a taboo topic, but it's one that's being heavily researched now, finally. We're trying to tear down those barriers and those walls we have. People are scared to talk about it. I'm more open than most and have no problem talking about it. Just because I've had to face those challenges. I've made the same runs and seen the same things, but you definitely have to have a good avenue in place to deal with those things.
Right. So, and also going down that mental side of being a career firefighter, we all go to work. We have those days, and then we're supposed to leave them at work, and then we come
Yeah.
home. Uh, what is your keys that what's in your toolbox that helps you not bring that home?
Yeah, well, I'll add to that too, because we'll get to those tools for sure. But I'll add to that in that the fire service is a profession unlike any other, in that it's a lot easier for somebody who works a 9 to 5 to go to work, punch in, work, and then go home and leave that bad day there. It is fairly easy to do that. But our bad days are so emotionally driven and so draining that it's impossible. You can't walk in your door at the home and at your house and everything just be fine. It's an impossible task. You can say you can and you put your husband cap on, your dad cap on, whatever when you walk in, but it just doesn't work that way. It's a profession unlike any other, being a responder agency. Now, some of the things I do to deal with it is, for one, recognize it. You have to be able to recognize it before you can even think about dealing with it. And the signs I have are, maybe sad for a little bit longer than normal, motivation to not do things that I normally did like to do. Those signs that I recognize in myself, that, okay, I really wanted to go fishing yesterday and today I don't. What's going on? And so I just got different decompression things I do, whether it's talking to guys at the firehouse. That seems to be one of the best tactics for any firefighter, especially somebody who's been there. Working out, going for a run, lifting weights, anything like that. I get outside quite a bit, and that tends to help me. Everybody has their own, but those are some of the things that I use.
So to better explain to you, our viewers, I'm going to give you just a little bit. I've been away from the fire service for probably going on 10 years. Okay, I can tell you some runs in detail from 10 years ago, and if that don't put into words of how hard it is, and we're talking 10 years ago, and I can tell you who was on the crew, I can tell you their names, I can tell you what the weather was, I can tell you what the person was wearing that I was working on. If that don't explain the the first responders, what they go through, I don't know if anything else will. But it's important to talk about what you guys go through, because the main reason is for the public to understand when you're saying, hey, we got to do this, or hey, please step back.
Mm-hmm.
They understand what you're going through mentally, day in and day out.
Absolutely.
And also too is it's a brotherhood. We all talk about the brotherhood. Okay.
Yeah.
I find myself still posting on 9/11. I find myself still posting about, hey, great job, guys, you're knocking it out of the park. And anytime something happens, I also find myself reaching out to those people or reaching out to their families, because it's so true. You can be away for 20 years and that's still your brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
Because we know what you go through.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the fire department has a special place in my heart. And that's also too why my first show on Tooltime Talk is with Joey, a firefighter, because I was in the trenches with you guys,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand that. Let's talk a little bit about the community.
Okay.
Zone fire in the community.
Yeah. Zone's very, like our chief, the one we have now and the one we had before, both have a philosophy that I tell every new person coming in the door that you're a public servant first. We all know the cool stuff you see on TV, the fires and the trainings, all the stuff we see, but you're actually a public servant first. And so you do whatever the community asks of you, whether that's putting smoke detectors or having events where we have kids come to the firehouse, or anything whatsoever that the community needs our help with, is fire related. We want to see people when there's not an emergency. There's nothing worse in the world than calling 911 and hoping. That's a terrible place to be. So we have our mission that we want to get out in the community. We want people to see our faces. And when they're having that worst day in their life, they can call 911 and say, I know those guys and girls are coming. I've seen them. I may even know a few of them's names, and I know they're going to be here. And so that's kind of our mission behind the mission. We know we're going to fight fires, protect property, and save lives, but we want to make sure people understand that we're there to do that all the time, and we're there to serve them. So we do that through many different events, between all the holidays, Christmas, Halloween's a big one coming up where we go around. We put Santa on top of a big fire truck around Christmas time. The Crusade for Children, a charity event there in town, we obviously collect money for. We just get out in the community as much as we can so they can see us and know who we are.
Well, you said Crusade for Children. So we're in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Some of our viewers in PA, some of them in overseas, there's a few overseas, all over the place. So a lot of people don't understand when you say Crusade for Children. I have something to add to that Crusade for Children.
Sure.
The Crusade for Children is money that's raised for children by all the fire departments, even by some local businesses. How much do you guys raise?
I don't know what our total is. Last year we had a whole lot of extra. I mean, usually our average year is anywhere between 80 to 110. Last year was obviously an elevated year because of what we had going on. So
each department raises some money and they bring it all into one time, and it goes to the Crusade for Children. And to explain to our viewers, I will help out with that. When I had a hole in my eardrum, and back in the day when I was a youngster, I went to so many ear specialists, and I had tubes and I had all this stuff done, and then finally I had a patching done, and it's a lot of money. And at that time, my mother actually went through the Crusade for Children. They were a big part of it. The clinic I went to was paid for by the Crusade for Children. So it was amazing to be able to go years later and me be a part of contributing back into that. So that's the thing with the fire department. Everyone sees the flashy trucks, the lights, the siren, they see all that stuff, but they don't really see what's behind that. You guys do a bass tournament that I highly recommend to anyone in that area, in Tennessee, Kentucky, anywhere you are. They have a Crusade for Children bass tournament every year. Amazing, hands down. It is. I was there for the very first one, and we probably had 50, I don't know, boats, but it grew and grew and grew. And I watch it online now, and I follow it, and I was like, this thing's like huge. And it's so good. But all this stuff goes to special events. They go to things in the community to help the community grow, and it all gives back. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a short commercial break, and we're going to, every time I do this, I'm going to have a short commercial break. This is 100% free to everyone. I do this 100% free. We're going to plug in some of our local communities and stuff they got going on. And like I said, we'll be right back. Welcome back. And again, thank you for joining us. And I just want to remind everyone that I do have a YouTube channel. It's Tooltime Talk. It's on YouTube, and I will be uploading everything to there. I'll also be uploading it to Facebook and Instagram. It's Tooltime Talk. And I thank you again for following us. So we're going to jump right back in here. And I want to know, what is your role on the fire service?
Well, I have a couple of them, and I think it starts with, like, I'm a shift sergeant, so I'm a driver. And that's kind of where it starts. That's my base in the fire suppression world. Like, I'm a driver first and foremost. So I'm a sergeant. Well, then we also have a really neat system at Zone where every member on our career staff and many on our volunteer staff have a role. Like, on the fire department, there's a ton of moving parts. There's a lot of things that have to get done in order in the right way. And the best way to do that is give everybody a role, their own little piece of the pie to take pride in. And on that, mine is recruiting. I'm the recruiting coordinator for the department. And on the volunteer side, I make sure we have good volunteers to choose from in the fire service. Now, it's a very weird thing because there's a fine line between an asset and a liability. And so that is a very unique job, but it's one that I love. And the reason being is every single person in the fire service remembers the first firefighter they talked to. Everybody remembers that. And everybody can tell you this day what their name was, their rank was, and how they were to you. And so I love having that role. The first person they talk to about the fire service when they walk in the door at Zone is me. And I don't ever take a second of that for granted. And I make sure that I know every person I meet coming in that door, I'm open and honest with them, but I'm also trying to sales pitch the fire service. And I just love that role of being the first person that they get to talk to when they come in the door.
So let me ask you a question on that. So with everything going on in the world today, we all know it. you're a recruiter.
Yeah.
Okay. In my industry and a lot of other industries, it's probably one of the worst jobs right now. Is the fire service having issues with recruiting?
Absolutely. And it's so difficult. I'll get into why we're able to recruit in a second, but it is extremely difficult because what I'm looking for is somebody to be professional, hardworking, dedicated, loyal, all the great things. And then, hey, I'm not even going to pay you to do it. And then I need you to put your life on the line. So it is a very, very difficult job, and it takes a very special person to raise their hand and say, hey, I even kind of want to do that. So you can imagine this day and age, the way society is, going to somebody saying, I need all these awesome things, and you're not going to make a dime. And I need you to go put your life on the line for somebody you don't even know. I need you to do all that for me for free.
Wow.
It is extremely difficult. Now, the cool thing about Zone is there are people, one thing I always tell everybody is that there's always people working soup kitchen. You will always find somebody that's a volunteer to volunteer their time, but it's very difficult to find one for us. One thing I do tell every member coming in the door is you're a volunteer, but at the same time, to sit in the soup kitchen. I have to turn people away that I think is going to be a liability because the fire service has a great name. The American Fire Service is so strong that I can't bring somebody in that's going to mess that up. Right. And so there's a very fine line. It's very tough recruiting this day and age, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, we're able to do it. One way we're able to recruit great firefighters is our organization. It's not changed much since you've been there as far as how great it is. The community respects it, and a lot of people want to be a part of that. And so my best recruiting tool, because people ask me, well, how do you recruit? It's not really a flyer. It's not a business card. It's not a cool flag on the road. It's not a really neat sign or anything. It's your own organization. Because if you don't have an organization that's not great like ours is, nobody wants to be a part of it anyway. Nobody cares about your sign. So my best recruiting tool is our very own organization. But yeah, it is extremely difficult out there right now.
Right now, especially.
Oh, yeah.
I totally get it. But in that aspect, again, I like to preach that people just don't understand what that means. That's literally like you're doing it voluntarily. When you're a volunteer, you have a pager on your side. You're at home. You're sitting down with your kids. You're eating dinner. You're your family. You're helping do homework, and all of a sudden, beep, 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 and you're stepping out. Well, when you're stepping out for totally free. And the basic house fire run lasts about, what would you say?
Probably 3-4 hours.
Yeah, at least 3 or 4 hours. So that's 3 or 4 hours of your time that you spent. And almost 100% of volunteers have a regular job.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is in their free time. So all of us that do normal 9-to-5 jobs, and we're having issues right now trying to hire employees, think of Joey, because he's asking people to do it for free in their spare time. And I'm going to tell you right now, this old man is getting old. And crawling around on your hands and knees in over 100 degrees temperature, I mean, how do you make that look so, oh, this is great.
Yeah, it's tough.
But do you want to do it for free?
It's
so
tough.
again, that's why I look at the fire service and appreciate them so much. So a lot of people want to know, what does your typical day look like at the firehouse?
That's the crazy thing is we're a responder age, so we always kind of shun the word typical day. But I try to make it as typical as I can. I have a very strict routine. That's who I am as a person anyway. And so I try to make it as routine as I possibly can. But obviously we can't schedule fire runs. So, usually it might come in, like I have an outstanding crew. We come in, I'm the sergeant, so we meet with the captain, see what he's got to get done for that day. So we usually sit around and drink and catch up. Now, we're the brotherhood thing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is each other. How was your 2 days off? What did you go do? And we're going to catch up with each other first before we even talk about the day. And I think that's important. Mm-hmm. And so then we talk about the day, what we need to get done. Our shift starts at 7 a.m., so that might take us to 7:30 or so. Some days, maybe on a Sunday, we may roll right through 8:30 with that, just depending on how it was. If it was a busy week for us or whatever. Right. And so then we're always, I drive the truck, so I'll make sure I always check the truck. Usually a few days a week we'll have training. We'll have training around 9, and then that'll take us into lunch. After lunch, I have some admin work I usually do, whether it's the recruiting stuff. I try to schedule interviews in the afternoon. I try to do any schoolwork that I'm trying to button up on for classes, whether it's the fire academy or local classes. I try to button up that work in the afternoon. I try to do some reading in the afternoon, something on the fire service, whether it's an article, a book, whatever. I try to do something like that in the afternoon. And usually around 3 to 4, if most of the stuff's done, we kind of hang around. We may catch up on some chores or whatever. Another guy I got on my crew is an outstanding cook. And I cook also, so it's going to be me or him cooking. So we either go to the grocery store, we're there for 24 hours. So we have to live there. It's not just punching in and 8 hours and go home. So then we cook, and then after supper, we do a pretty good cleanup of the firehouse. Most of our cleaning is done in the evenings. That way, when the crew coming in next morning, they don't have to worry about it for the whole day. So then most of our cleaning, and then we try to hang out together a little bit, depending on the night. If we had a busy day, it might be time to lay down or whatever. But then, usually we're in bed at a decent time, sometimes depending. And then you lay down at night, and that's when lately you're usually getting up a couple times a night, 2 to 3 times a night. To go help somebody come back to bed. Now, we talked about the mental side earlier. That's very difficult. I'm the type of guy that if I wake up and I go into an emergency scene and come back, I can't just go right back to sleep. It's going to be, if I make a 10-minute fire run, which is a real quick out of the firehouse and back in, it's automatically going to be about an hour and 10 minutes I'm going to be awake. And then by that time, usually another run's coming in. So the 24 hours, it seems really great. Oh, you get paid to sleep, but it's not like that at all. Well, then when you have to go home at 7 in the morning, you got to go be a dad, you got to go be a husband, you got to go be a wife, family member, or you may have to go to another job and they're expecting you to perform at that other job. They don't really care that you didn't have any sleep the night before while you did it. So it's definitely, a typical day isn't typical. But there's definitely times when, your average day can be pretty draining on you, but it's, I still think it's the best job in the world. I still look forward to going to work every day, and I've been paid for 15 years, and I don't think that's going to change.
All right. So before we go into this next topic, I wanted to give a kudos to the management staff, the chief, the assistant chief, the battalion chiefs that have been there over the years. I want to give you a props for when I was at Zoltan. The one thing that I cherished was when Zoltan decided to go from a volunteer to a paid crew, they still kept their volunteers and they still treated their volunteers just as good or maybe even better than they treated the paid staff. And I'm gonna tell you now, I've moved around. I've lived in Florida, Atlanta, Jacksonville, West Virginia now. And I'm not saying that all the departments don't do that, but I just know for a fact how well the volunteers are treated. So I wanted to give my props to the Zoltan management staff, the upper management, and say kudos to you, because that's an amazing thing to do. So Joey, I have to go into this topic. It's a hot button topic all over the country right now. So, but the topic is COVID. Now, I think this is a very important thing for your community to know. How is Zoltan Fire Department? How are you handling COVID? But how's your protocols inside the station?
Yeah, well, it's correct. It's just like every other organization out there. We're no different. We have to make rules around COVID, and we've rode that roller coaster of, this is what we think we need to be doing. Well, somebody recommends this, so then we go back to this. We go back and forth. So, just because we're the fire service doesn't make us any different than any other organization as far as riding that roller coaster. Okay, this week we got to do this week, and so we do that a lot. The way it started and the way it is now is kind of the same, but we've went to the extreme, and we went the extreme the other direction. Now, we started out, we didn't know much about it. There was no vaccine. We didn't know anything about it. We didn't even know if it was that bad to catch it at that time, but we just knew we didn't want to. We didn't want to risk it. And so we started out our protocols where, we make all trouble breathing runs. Well, what is COVID? What does it attack? It attacks your lungs. And so we started to get a lot of uptick in trouble breathings, but we didn't know if it was COVID because the rapid testing hadn't been available. And, so many people in our area suffer allergies or whatever. So they would have trouble breathing, and we were treating that like just a typical trouble breathing call like we would have, 5 years ago. Well, then COVID came out, and so we realized, well, any trouble breathing's got to be it has to be treated as almost like a positive patient, because they're having trouble breathing and we're getting ready to take them to get tested. EMS is getting ready to take them to get tested. So when we started out, we were all gowns and goggles, masks, gloves, everything. And we were sending just one person into the house to check the patient. If they wasn't critically ill, we would keep our 6 feet distance from them. We'd talk to them about the episode. We would provide very good medical care, but we would just do it from 6 feet away. And if they were really bad, needed O2, their sats were off, obviously we would intervene and do our interventions we're allowed to do to help them. That's where it went and that's where it started. And so back then, an exposure was written up as anytime you entered a home and somebody had COVID. That was an exposure. But that's what we had to go on the time. That was an exposure, and you had to do a report for it. Well, then we kind of rode the wind of, well, now we kind of got to where we're just mask, gloves, and goggles. And then it kind of got into, well, now the guys mostly wear just gloves and masks, and we try to keep our distance and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of weird how we went full circle to, well, now with the vaccine coming out, or that came out, it changed things yet again. So we're pretty much given the exact same care and nothing has changed. If they tell us they're COVID positive, we treat them just like, okay, no big deal. We have a mask on and gloves. We have to wear a mask when we go into public now, just because it was a recommendation. We have to follow, recommendations above us. And so, yeah, we started out in gowns and everything else, and then we graduated, to dumbing that down a little bit. Then we went back up again. And then the vaccine came out, and then things got a little bit more laxed. And so now we're really as back to normal as I think we're going to get on the response side. We still got crazy battles to fight with COVID on other things and stuff like that. But on the response side, that's about where we stand right now. Is we're pretty much back to as normal as we're going to get. I think moving forward in the fire service, this is just my opinion, we'll probably always wear the mask. We always wore the gloves anyway, but I think the masks are here to stay. I think we're going to keep masks for as long as I'm a firefighter.
Yeah. So if you work for a zone fire department
Mm-hmm.
and you contract the COVID-19 virus,
Mm-hmm.
how does that work as you as an employee? Because like we said, this is a career firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
You have your shift on crew. Well, you work 24/48.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, you have just what you have.
Yeah.
We all talk about in my industry.
Mm-hmm.
We work 9 to 5 jobs. We talk about in our industry, okay, such and such calls in.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to shut that machine down. This isn't shutting a machine down.
No, yeah, you're
We're
right.
shutting down a medical provider.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, too, to my viewers, I want to stress this. I heard this a lot. If you call 911 and somebody in your family is having an issue, a medical emergency, if a fire truck pulls up to your front door, don't think they sent the wrong person. Everybody on this truck has some type of medical background. They have to take EMT classes. They have paramedic classes. They could give you the same care, sometimes more, because they go to schooling longer than the EMTs that show up, just like an EMT. It was so many times that we would go to a full arrest and somebody just didn't know, and they said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't say fire." And I was like, "Ma'am, you're totally fine."
Yeah.
I just want to stress to people that don't really know, these fire engines have everything an ambulance would carry on it, and they're able to do everything an ambulance can do. So, but going back to my question is, it's not like you call out and you just get coverage.
Yeah.
When you get COVID, you're down for sometimes 14 days, maybe longer. How is the department handling that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was something we thought early on. We thought nobody had really got it, and so we thought, okay, maybe. And then the way the numbers went, depending on who you paid attention to, you didn't know where this thing was going in the beginning, and so you thought, okay, well, nobody's got it, we're good. And not that we didn't think about it, but we didn't worry about it. Well, then the first one gets it, and like, okay. Well, we didn't have anything in place at that time. Now the cool thing is it's a great organization, but like the department is also a fabulous employer, and it's a great place to actually work and call to have your career. And so we didn't really go with any changes. We automatically said if somebody had COVID, we were and they had to be off for I think we're now to 10 days, I believe.
10 days, yeah.
Now we're down to 10 days, but we're going to compensate them for those 10 days. And and I actually had it and had to be off. I was off for, I think it was 10 days. I don't remember how many shifts it was, but I was off too and got paid for that. It's and that was outstanding. And you can't really prove they try to do tracing, but we were making so many COVID cases. You can get it at Walmart or you can get it helping a COVID patient.
Anywhere.
But we just said, hey, look, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're a first responder. You probably got it from a patient. And so that's what we're going to run with. And so we've been handling that outstanding on the career side. And I couldn't be happier than our leadership has chose to do that. Now, there's a whole nother thing to worry about as far as the vaccine goes and where that trickles in. But every organization is going through that.
Right.
That's not just the fire service, but now that that's out and available, maybe we're going to have to take back and look at our stance on that. Maybe I don't think we should, because I'm not one to have to make that decision. I don't want to be put in that corner, so to
Right.
speak. But we may have to look at that moving forward. Right now, we do outstanding. We take care of our employees 100%.
And I can attest for that. So before we go, you guys are hit hard
Yeah.
with COVID-19.
Yeah.
Not as far as cases go.
Yeah.
I think you guys might be the only one in the country that I know of
Yeah.
that it wiped out your number one and number two.
Yeah.
And I still get cold chills. I knew those people very well. And but can you just touch on that for a minute?
Yeah. That was a very, very difficult time, and I don't know, and it still is, and I don't know that we like to pretend there's an end in sight of when we'll maybe come out of that, but I don't know that you will. I mean, because a loss of life is bad on any level. But it was the fire chief, and then when he passed away, it was the guy who was the acting fire chief. So it took two fire chiefs, in a matter of months apart, and so that was an extremely difficult time for us. I mean, two outstanding people. I mean, just great family guys and just awesome people to be around, and they helped grow that organization. It made it, the organization I just bragged about. They were the ones that brought it to that point. And to lose them, within months of each other was an extremely difficult time for us. I think we really honored them, and we continue to honor them by what we're doing now with the new leadership we have and the people we have in places. I think we're being very progressive and moving forward, and I think that's the best way to honor them, because you always wonder what's the best way to honor them, whether it's putting gear here or putting a monument there or a flag here. But I think what they would want would be us just to pick up and keep going, and we are doing a tremendous job of doing that now. I think it's the best way to honor them.
I totally 100% agree with that. So I just want to thank you, Joey, for coming.
Thanks, man. It's been a blast.
8-hour drive
Yeah.
to come visit me and to kick us off this first podcast / right on this one video chat.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank all our first responders, all of you. Through this time that we have been through in a year and a half, you've stepped up to the plate. Without a doubt, you're a hero. Some of you are paid, some of you are not paid, but you're all heroes. You're going in places that no one else wants to go into, and we really appreciate you. We've lost a lot of first responders to COVID, but also remember our conversation today. Okay, we've lost a lot of we've lost a lot of firefighters to suicide because of the job. I look at you today and I want to stress that. Don't forget that. These guys, these young men and women, they go through so much in a day. Think about losing one person in your family. They see death every day, every shift. That's a lot to go through as a first responder. And so don't forget about that. Don't think of the lights and the sirens. Don't look that up, Google it, whatever you have to do. All the data is there. Your mouth will drop. It's unbelievable, the PTSD that they go through after these runs. So again, thank you for this first episode. Please like and share. Share with your family, share with your coworkers. And our next episode, it was going to be in November. I'm going to try to do maybe 2 a month. And if it starts getting better, I'm going to keep continuing to go. Me and Joey here talking about collaborating from 8 hours away sometimes. I think Joey's an excellent speaker, and he's tons of knowledge. And I've learned so much from him. I mean, I had to jab him a little bit with how you got started because he's turned into such a great firefighter, and he's a great father, and he's a family guy, and I just love him to death. He's family. So, but again, thank you for joining us, and log on and check out Tooltime Talk and follow us and share us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned as much as I did. It sure was a lot of fun. Joey, I would like to say thank you for coming all the way out to be a part of this first episode. Please follow and share us on Instagram, Facebook, and our new YouTube channel, all under Tooltime Talk. Till next time, thank you and have a great day.